Alrighty, welcome back to the Tripwit podcast. I think this is episode 3, and I'm very excited to have Bianca on. Bianca and I have actually been in contact for a while now. She's a pioneer on the psychedelic movement on TikTok, does some really fantastic videos, and really has high vibes. So definitely make sure you check her out after this podcast. But Bianca, welcome. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me on here.
No, it's going to be fun. Do you mind explaining kind of what it is, the sort of content that you make on TikTok and Instagram?
Yes. So I started my TikTok journey about a year and a half ago. And my first videos were, about my ayahuasca experiences. So a lot of the content I make, it is about plant medicine, psychedelics, and also spirituality, consciousness, just things that I'm super interested in. However, I'd say over the last 8 months, my content has been kind of more just about my life in general in Costa Rica, just because of the TikTok guidelines. So that's something that I'm always getting over. But yeah, I like to talk about a balance of everything. So yes, the spiritual and the ceremony, but also things like festivals or Burning Man and yeah,
it's all pretty psychedelic in general anyway, because I feel psychedelics, at least for me, they kind of got me more interested in that sort of stuff, like Burning Man, spirituality, all that sort of stuff was only opened up to me from taking psychedelics. Did you feel like you've always been like a spiritual person? Has that always been your like personality, or was it like for you the same, psychedelics kind of like opened that up for you?
honestly, okay, I grew up going to church, but I didn't really resonate with the idea of God. And it's funny because now, when I was growing up, my grandma would take us to these things called song circles, where essentially you go and sing Jesus songs in a group. And now it's like that didn't resonate. But now, after this whole spiritual journey, I'll go to something like kirtan, which is essentially getting together in a group and chanting Hindu mantras. It's the exact same thing, to be honest. Now it's just different words, but one resonates and one doesn't. So my dad, he's, we're Eastern European, got a little gypsy blood in there. And so he's always been into spirituality and tarot, but even his form of spirituality didn't really resonate with me. So it took me until I was 25. And when I had my first psychedelic experiences to really kind of get it. So for me, it started at music festivals. And it was for fun at first. And then I was like, wait a minute. I love myself. I love everyone else so much more. And there's so much more to all of this.
Yes. Did you have that experience where you're like tripping? At least this happened for me because my mom was spiritual, and I would always before doing psychedelics, just totally not be open for it. And then I remember while tripping, the words of what my mom had always been saying, everything's vibration, everything's energy. That was coming through in the trip. I was like, fuck, mom was right this whole time. Were you I guess after your trips, you were resonating with your dad and stuff a lot more. Did you find that it kind of deepened your connection with his tarot cards and stuff like that?
Okay, so it's so funny. So you said the thing about how on your trips, all the things that your mom had said to you were coming through. I feel like that's the same thing for me. It was the things we are all connected, we're all one, vibrate at the frequency you want to attract, all those types of things. I was like, wait a minute, I get it now.
Yeah.
And actually, I feel like I went kind of on my whole own journey with it. A lot of some of my dad's spirituality stuff doesn't really resonate with me. He comes at it more even for manifestation, he'll be like, okay, you have to place your candles in a specific way and do this ritual. It's very different from kind of what I believe in. I feel like I would just have these experiences where I'd start receiving messages from the universe or God, source, whatever you want to call it, and other beings. And it was just the veil was lifted and things became more clear. But yeah, I wouldn't say necessarily that my dad and I are super similar in what we believe. However, now like I love tarot and I have such a connection to my intuition, but also I really do believe that we have angels and guides and spirit guides, and we can always kind of call on them for help when we need it. And I feel like tarot is a great tool for that.
Yes. Yeah, that's always intrigued me. That is it. Like I'm guessing you've had like experiences with entities. Well, I know you've had some experiences with entities on like psychedelics. Are those like beings what you'd say are like your guiding angels and stuff like that?
I don't know. So I have such a connection to the Hindu tradition because I always have deities come to me in ceremonies or just in psychedelic experiences in general. I feel like I just had a few really big trips along the way that kind of steered me in the direction of where I am now, which is in Costa Rica, where I started this whole journey with ayahuasca and other things like peyote and, other plant medicines. But I remember in 2019, I was at a cottage with a bunch of my girlfriends, and actually a bunch of my friends, they'd come from overseas to Canada. So I organized a cottage week and I brought a giant bag of mushrooms. And I remember we were just all like sitting and eating them by the handful. And my friend Petra was like, oh my God, the trees are dancing. And so after that, we're like, oh my God, we all have to eat as many mushrooms as we can until the trees start dancing. And
What the heck?
so we probably ate about like 4 or 5 grams each. And I was lying on this pool floaty out in the lake. And I remember looking up at the clouds, and suddenly the clouds started turning like clockwork, like, gears and cogs in a clock. And they were all shaped like hieroglyphics. And then, and I kept getting brain zaps. And every time I get a brain zap, I'd be tripping harder. And then suddenly Ganesha appeared amongst the clouds. And I was like, oh shit, that's Ganesha. Like, I better say something important. And I think I asked Ganesha to talk to my grandparents for me and tell them that I was sorry that we didn't communicate more when they were still alive. And then, so I was like crying, talking to Ganesha, and my friend like pulls me in by this rope attached to the floaty. And then, we go and have our day. But actually that was one of the most important experiences for me. And it really is what led me to where I am now. In ceremonies, I'd say I've been, I've experienced Lakshmi, other beings, but not necessarily spirit guides, just kind of like spirits telling me what all of this is. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, for sure. Sorry, was it Lakshmi? What's Lakshmi?
Oh, Lakshmi. So she's
Lakshmi,
the goddess of abundance.
Oh, true.
And Ganesha is the Hindu god with the elephant head.
Yeah,
so
I know Ganesha.
Obstacles.
Yeah.
I just got this tattoo. It says, what does it say? Om Gam Ganapatiye Namaha, which essentially is, salutations to Lord Ganesha.
Nice.
So.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Ganesha's always been like the Hindu god that I resonate with the most. I don't know why. Even though I've got a Shiva, like I got the Shiva trident on my chest for no particular reason.
Cool.
It was like a spur of the moment thing. And then I had barely knew a thing about Hinduism, but Hinduism has always been like, there's something about it. And I don't know like what it is exactly, but when I trip, there's like, a lot of the, like visuals I get, they're really similar to like Hindu artwork and stuff. Like I remember once, I had this like experience. I was like meditating. I can't remember what I was on, but like I literally was just getting like this info download about like the moment itself, and everything looked like this like weird like alien technology. Like I was like taken to somewhere, and it was like showing me like this like machine like creating the moment, but the machine looked like it was like those Hindu towers that are like just made out of like the artwork and everything. Like it literally looked just like that. And the day after, I was on holiday somewhere, and so I just went to like a tourist shop. It was like a spiritual tourist shop, and they were like selling like these little like Hindu like statues, and one of them looked like identical to the thing that I'd experienced during the trip. So there's definitely something to it, and it might just be because those guys over there, they like dedicated so much to tapping into that realm that they're literally just pulling back into this reality, like what that reality looks like, or it's influencing us. I don't really know, but Hinduism and the nature of those entities, it's definitely something that like keeps popping up during trips, especially Ganesha. Like a lot of people will actually ask for help, and even if they've got a Christian background, Ganesha will come through and like help them out. Do you think it's like a actual like, you know, independent being, or do you reckon it's like, you know, we've heard about Ganesha and it's like somewhere in the mind there, and then it's coming through in the trip?
I don't know. It's kind of like you said, maybe I feel like actually in a lot of ancient civilizations and different parts of the world, people must have been taking psychedelics and going to these
Yeah, for
places.
sure.
And so I truly don't know. I just have, yeah, I have a huge connection to Ganesh. At the end of the day, no one can say 100% what any of this
Yeah,
means, but
totally.
I'd, I, if we're all infinite manifestations of source energy, and Ganesh is just one manifestation of that, maybe
Yeah.
he is out there in the universe somewhere. Because
Yes.
my first experience with Ganesha, like, on that mushroom trip, I didn't know a lot about him before. So,
Yeah, I get you. It's fascinating. It's like I feel like I've said this like so many times, but you know, we so easily dismiss so much of this stuff as being like imagined, like oh, it's just the imagination. But it's like we don't even know what the imagination is. Like most of what we experience right now when we're sober is imagined. Like it's all like we're given meaning to everything. We're literally like imagining like the story behind everything we're doing. Like, yeah, I'm talking to Bianca like over in Costa Rica. It's like I'm looking at a screen with like pixels. Like, you know, it's just the mind is constantly creating these like narratives for us, and it's all imagined. And it doesn't mean it's not real. And that's the freaky thing is I think that we are literally able to tap into like all sorts of different dimensions. There could be like 1,000 different dimensions out there. Like that's why some people do like get connected to like Jesus and stuff like that when they trip as well. And certainly I know my mind, like what you were saying before. Um, I was totally closed off to all religion before tripping. And then my brother became like an extreme Christian, like after getting hooked on meth and stuff. And so like I wanted to just like be there for him. So I went to church with him. And it's insane. Like I remember going there and my mind was way more open to this like um this different reality. Like there's something that you can't see with your senses. You know, like I think that there are the potential for like miracles is possible now. Like that's kind of just like how much psychedelics kind of like open up your mind. You know, I don't know, I'm ranting, I'm rambling, but like it's for me, I think one of the things that psychedelics has done the most is just open up my mind, kind of showed me like there's a lot more that's possible. Literally, if you can imagine it, it might be possible in this reality for sure. But anyway, with your trips on ayahuasca, were those your first like psychedelic experiences?
no. So I sat with ayahuasca for the first time in November 2020. And
Right.
I'd felt the call for a while. But no, my first trip ever was acid.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
was it a spiritual experience, the acid trip, or was it just like a kind of fun recreational thing?
The first experience was I just did like half a tab with my best friend at a music festival. It
That's
was
cool.
really fun. We were just like laughing and giggling all day. My friend did get overwhelmed. We had to go to the sanctuary at the festival where a
Right.
volunteer helped her.
Yeah.
Um, because we didn't really know what we were doing. We didn't know about setting intentions. So it was so
Mm.
funny. We left the sanctuary and our intention became, I was like, Clarissa, we're going to go and find all the sunflowers at the festival. And so then that was our intention for the day. But it wasn't like super trippy. It wasn't super crazy. I think it was just, yeah, the first time that my mind was really opened in that way. And it kind of just put me on the path of being like, okay, wait, I want to learn more about this. And
Yeah.
also, I just felt so connected to my best friend in a way I never had before. It really opened my eyes up so much. And also, it's like what you were saying, like, well, kind of what you were just talking about. I kind of think that the world is always kind of trippy.
Sure.
And I feel like these substances are just kind of showing us what's always there.
Yeah.
I find it so fascinating to think about all the time. This is kind of a tangent, but one thing I find super interesting is for certain people, like, I feel like the way that they see the world is as though some of us had taken a psychedelic. I have certain friends who, when they walk down the street, it can be super overwhelming because they're feeling everybody's energy on such a crazy level. And the way they've described their experience of life and just how their brain works, they're always processing so much information. And I actually have a friend, he has an account called Autism on Acid. So he's autistic, and he posted a study about how people who are neurodivergent have more DMT in their system.
Oh, whoa.
And so it's kind of crazy. And also, so I've shared DMT experiences on TikTok, and I've had some people tag this creator who has schizophrenia. And it's like the world or dimension, whatever we want to call it, that I described from DMT is what this creator has depicted just from what he sees in his everyday life.
That's not exo-rad, do you know?
Oh, I don't remember. It was so long ago now.
Because I know there's like a schizophrenic artist who I used to talk to, and he would literally like draw the faces of the entities that he was seeing. And it was like literally, I got in contact with him because I made a video about the machine elves, and he contacted me and he was like, yeah, I meet those entities all the time, but he's not taking psychedelics. He's just got schizophrenia. And so literally he's like, yeah, they're real, but I can't say that to anybody. Like everyone's just like, yeah, I'm crazy. I've got schizophrenia. But I kind of have to be a little bit assured in knowing that, you know, this stuff is real, at least to me. And like, I'm just not allowed to talk about it. And that's the thing is, you know, it's like when we talk about this stuff to somebody who hasn't done psychedelics, it's just like, yeah, you experience this stuff because you're on psychedelics. In the same way that, you know, you hear a schizophrenic talking about hearing voices and stuff like that, and immediately you dismiss it because it's just not the normal way of like looking at life. But you can imagine like if like literally like somebody just spiked, you know, our town's main water supply with acid, and no one built up a tolerance to it, you know, that just became like our reality. All of a sudden, everyone's just like, yeah, we're one, we're connected. Like, you know, that's just reality. We're just one being or something like that. And then there's like one dude who just has never tripped or has never drunk, you know, the water. He buys his own bottled water, and he's like, nah, we're all like independent. Like my name is this, and I'm like an individual person. We'd all be like, that dude's got psychosis. Like he's literally insane. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think it definitely, changes the way you look at reality on a fundamental level. But obviously you didn't get that from your first acid trip. Was it your ayahuasca trip that really like changed it for you?
Okay, let me think. Okay, so you know, I had my first acid trip. That was in 2018. And I went on this kind of journey. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm 25 years old and I'm just finding out about this now. So I was like, I need to start experiencing like more of these things. And I actually wanted to start like sharing my experiences too. So, you know, I did have more trips and more experiences. So I started getting more and more interested in spirituality. Then I had that Ganesha experience. And then I came to Costa Rica in February 2020. And I went to Envision Music Festival. And I met all of these people, you know, working in the psychedelic community, like researchers, scientists, people in the indigenous community. And they're all super passionate about plant medicine and talking about ayahuasca. And I was like, damn, I need to like experience this. So eventually, you know, a few months after that, I moved to Costa Rica permanently. And that's when I started sitting with ayahuasca. And it's like, that's when, I think someone just fell. But that's when everything just really clicked. Yeah. And because I'd even been working with this coach about, you know, she's like a coach about like, I don't want to say life coach, but she talks about like creating your own reality, manifestation,
Oh yeah.
Following your dreams, following your passions. And everything that she told me, I was like, I didn't fully get it. I was like, what do you mean? Like, just put your energy in the right place and things will manifest there. Like, vibrate at the frequency you want to attract. What does that mean? Like, we're all spiritual beings having a human experience.
Yeah.
Or like, we're all one. Like we're here on earth to learn lessons.
Yeah.
And so I was always like, okay, like I kind of get it. You know, I trusted her enough to make this crazy decision and move to Costa Rica where she lived. But it wasn't until my first and second ayahuasca ceremonies where it's like ayahuasca showed me everything. And yeah, it was wild. Like I remember my first ceremony, I was just being bombarded with so much information. I think when you first sit with ayahuasca, maybe it's not true for everybody. It's more like she's kind of checking you out and kind of like assessing you and seeing what's up. My second ceremony, though, my intention was to connect with the universe and my higher self. And from my first, acid trips, you know what? I actually had a really important acid trip at Burning Man and at Africa Burn. That's where I first really understood like the idea of the collective consciousness.
Right.
And I remember tripping on acid in the desert and the whole sky was just filled with grids. And it was like the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. And it was, I was just like, holy fuck, like this is like a hologram that we're in.
Right.
And I think that experience like straight up reset my brain. I remember like, being this one version of myself. And then after that, I was like, I feel like I was a completely different person.
Wow.
And then, but anyway, so from that experience, I got this tattoo that says the universe.
Yeah.
And it's the idea that we are all the universe and the universe is in all of us.
Yes.
Or that we are all, infinite manifestations of the universe.
Yeah.
And so my second ayahuasca ceremony, my intention was to connect with the universe and my higher self. And I remember just in that ceremony being transported into another dimension somewhere. I was in infinite black space and I was looking at the universe and the universe was a hologram. And I remember that's when I was like surrounded by all these beings and they were just telling me like, everything matters, nothing matters. Vibrate at the frequency you want to attract. You chose to come back to earth, to have experiences, to live life as a human, to learn lessons and to grow. And I was also told your purpose in life is to love yourself, love everyone else, and to have fun. And I was also told that our collective purpose as humans in this generation is to have fun. And I don't think that means not ever working, but it's like follow what brings you joy and do what brings joy to you. That's, benefiting you, but also benefiting others.
Yeah.
I think that's when everything like really, really clicked.
Yes.
And I remember like opening my eyes in the ceremony room and there was just like neon green energy grids everywhere. And there were spirits in the grids. It was freaking crazy. At one point, I remember my head was in my hands and I was so overwhelmed because I was basically told that we have to keep coming back to experience life as humans until we learn all the lessons that we need to learn.
Right. Yes.
I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I have to come back again? But then I was like, you know what? It's fine. If I have to come back in the next life, if I'm super tired, I'm just going to go become a monk and meditate all day long, every day.
Yes.
But that was crazy. And just like, I think that shaped so much of how I see the world and what I believe and really drove it home so much that it's like, I'm so strong in my beliefs now.
Right.
I was actually at Africa Burn again recently, which is, for anyone who doesn't know, it's Burning Man in South Africa. and I had taken a little bit of mushrooms, but it wasn't enough to trip. It was just enough to get kind of weird. And so I was like super overwhelmed all day long. Don't take mushrooms in the desert. But yeah, I remember it was sunset and I was walking back to my camp and it was so beautiful. Suddenly like the stars came out, but I remember just being hit by this sudden like wave of sadness. I was like, oh my God, I don't want to die. And I was in the middle of the desert, just by myself, crying. Like, I looked so pathetic. I was like standing like this. I was just like bawling my eyes out. I was like, I don't want to die. I don't want to leave this life. And then at a certain point, I was like, I know so like that I'm so strong in my beliefs that this isn't going to be the end, that everything is energy, and that I will exist in some way forever. I was like, stop crying.
Yeah.
You're good. You're at Burning Man. Have fun. But yeah, it's like, I guess we can never know what any of this all is. But I also think that I'm like 99% sure of what I believe in.
Yeah, pretty sure. Yeah, no, I mean, that's the thing. So many people who have these trips actually do get in touch with the same stuff as well. Like, it's always helping with that fear of death. I find like so much of the information we get, is helping us deal with this fear of death. So many times I felt like after in a trip, like my fear of death is completely irrational. And I think it's for the same reasons. Like, I actually don't know exactly why. Like, I've had a lot of trips and I have had the memory of like being like, yeah, I don't know why I'm afraid of death. Like, there's absolutely nothing to fear. Life is eternal. That's what life is. It's not death. Like, life will never die, and all that kind of crap. But then like I've had higher trips and I think the information is extremely similar to what you're talking about. It's like, it's sort of like a video game or something like that, where it's just like you're continually coming back until, like you basically pass the mission. And it's like in a video game, you will just keep dying and starting back at that checkpoint until you get it right, until you know what to do. And then you get to the next level and it just keeps going like that infinitely. And I think that freaks a lot of people out. Like, I've shared videos on my TikTok where I've talked about trips where people will see like the universal loop and they will literally see like their life on repeat over and over and over again. And that is for some people a nightmare. Like, they're like, I don't want to do this over and over and over again. But chances are, I feel like, well, you're probably that's why you're doing it over and over again. If you're looking at life in that way, then there might be something wrong with the way you're looking at life. Like, you like one thing that, psychedelics are teaching you, and I think they're teaching many people, is that you are here to have fun. Like, it's a blessing to be able to do this over and over and over again. Like, I hope I can repeat this over and over again. You know what I mean? Like, because at some point, once you get it, you realize there's just like no limitations. Like, you literally can do whatever you want. And that's probably, ironically, when you stop repeating it over and over. I mean, that's like, I don't have any like solid, science behind it or evidence behind it or whatever. That's my best guess based on the trips. Like, I haven't actually had a trip that's actually specifically said that's what happens. So it's awesome to hear that that's actually the message you got in yours. Cause that's always just like been my guess on like the few like fractured things I've seen. But there was something else you said there that I find really interesting. Well, there's many things, but the first thing, you said that you became like a different person instantly after that acid trip in Africa. And I think that freaks a lot of people out. Like, they hear like, I'll never be the same person. I was never the same person again after, taking acid or mushrooms or whatever. And I think that scares a lot of people away from tripping. But do you want to explain like that feeling of being a new person? It's not like you're like replaced by a different like personality or whatever. Yeah.
Okay, wait, maybe I should explain this better. But what's so funny? I actually have a few friends who, back when I used to live in North America, I had some like finance friends, and they were so scared of doing psychedelics because like, what if I don't want to be like in finance or in politics anymore? Like, what
Yeah.
if I'm gonna like become a hippie?
Yeah.
Like,
Totally.
no, you're good. Okay, so when I went to South Africa in 2019, it was like I'd been working in bottle service before, and I'd been working in bars and, you know, making really, really good money, but it wasn't something that was like aligned for me. And I feel like I was putting so much energy into it, and it was just a super negative space to be in. Like at one point, I'd finish work at 6 a.m. and then go to after hours and then go to bed at like 10 a.m. and wake up at 4 p.m. and then do it again. And so that didn't last for very long, but I knew that I didn't want to be stuck in that life. Like I knew there was so much more that I could be doing. So I went to South Africa, and I went to Africa Burn. And I remember, so actually I had this one first acid trip there that was super crazy, you know, energy grids everywhere. And at that point, I feel as though like I was super anxious and just in my regular life, and just felt like something was missing and felt like I couldn't really fully believe in myself. And so I had that acid trip, started to feel like, okay, like I'm in this place with all these people who are super open-minded and who kind of get me. I feel like this is who I'm meant to be. Mm-hmm. And then a few days later, I did another acid trip, but this time it didn't work. Like I still went out with my friends. I had a really good night, but I was completely sober. But then the next day when I woke up, it really was like a switch had flipped in my brain. I was just more myself than I had been in years. And it's like, it's hard to explain, but it was like, the anxiety was gone. The caring what others think was just totally gone. Yeah. And like, yeah. So it's not like I became a different person. I don't think we become different people. Yeah. I think that we just become more of who we actually are.
Yes.
Every time.
100%.
Like, even with ayahuasca, like, I didn't believe in myself enough before, like, sitting with ayahuasca to actually, like, be who I wanted to be and show up authentically as myself. Like I always share with people, I wanted to do YouTube from the time I was 12 years old. And it took me till I was 28 years old to fucking start a TikTok. Wow. Because it took me sitting with ayahuasca a bunch of times to be like, wait a minute, I can believe in myself.
Yeah.
So.
Wow, it's so amazing. And it's so funny that like you'd have friends who are in finance and they'd be like, I don't want to do it in case I realize I hate this and want to do something else. And I actually think that's what it is for so many of us. It's like you actually like we kind of got a culture of lying to ourselves. Not saying that your friends, you know, would leave finance or whatever and they actually hate it, but like so many of us actually know that we're lying to ourselves. And like that's why alcohol is probably way more popular than psychedelics, because it like numbs the brain and it helps you like lie to yourself a little bit more. Whereas psychedelics, you can't lie to yourself on them. Like most of the time they bring up stuff that you've been running from. And it's true. That's the thing. It's not making you a different person. It's literally turning you, it's showing you that you haven't been yourself for so long. And it's showing you, hey, like, let's be real. Let's be honest with ourselves. We know we're not where we want to be, or we know we're not doing the things we want to do. You know, this is what you want to do. Let's just do it. And so if you are a different person after tripping, most of the time it's a good thing. Most of the time it's because you've realized something. There are those instances where you can have a big trip and, you know, you are taken somewhere or into a negative place and then you can't come out of it. I've had friends who haven't recovered from bad trips. But they've kind of used it in a way that's a little bit questionable as well. And I think that's a big reason to do with it. But we've got less than 1 minute. So I'll quickly stop the recording and then I'll give you another call if that's all right.
Yes.
Cool. Thanks, Bianca.
No problem.
For you, was there anything in particular that you kind of had to do to like induce these like spiritual trips? Like there's a lot of people who do have psychedelic experiences and they don't visit these places. They don't visit entities. They don't go to different dimensions. They don't get in touch with this amazing information. Is it just like a lucky, like, do you have to just be lucky to get it? Or is there something you can do, do you think?
I have no idea why this was my path or my journey. I don't know why I've received the messages I've received or why I felt called to certain things. Like I'm super grateful for it, but it's definitely overwhelming at times. Yeah, like now, for example, I host retreats and like I know it's super aligned for me and I know it's what I'm meant to do. And I know I'm meant to bring people together. I literally call them soul family retreats. But like I don't know why this was my path. It's not necessarily like an easy one. I feel like there's so many people out there doing this kind of thing. And they're like, I don't know why I got these messages, but I got the message and now I have to go with it. So it's like, it's super fun for me to learn all these things and to have these experiences and to be able to create so much, but I don't know why it came to me. So.
That's fair. That's fair. I think it's the same for me as well. It's like, I think setting intention can definitely help. And, you know, I think if you kind of use psychedelics carelessly and, you know, you use them as like a recreational substance, there's definitely a less chance that they're going to do anything for you. Like for me, I remember at the moment that I decided I don't really have time to like, you know, take acid and have like a psychedelic experience because I got like, you know, I was starting to do work full time and stuff. And I was like, this is just not something I have time for anymore. And I didn't have access to DMT. I was like, you know what? I've just got a part of my intuition telling me that I can use weed like a psychedelic. Stuff it. Next time I do weed, you know, I'm going to sit down with it, set an intent, set an intention, and then just meditate on it. And I did it. And it was like by far, like it was like 20 times the most, you know, powerful psychedelic weed experience I'd ever had. And it was fully just like taking acid or something like that. So definitely, I do think the way you use them can help. But at the same time, you know, I was tripping with a lot of friends and I was, you know, a lot of my friends at the time didn't see psychedelics like I saw them. And it didn't matter how high a dose they did, they wouldn't get in touch with entities. They wouldn't go to different places. It was just kind of like, it would kind of like fuck them up a little bit more and make them, you know, a little bit more drunk or something like that. So it's definitely, you know, I think it's a combo of like, you're either, you kind of like, you've got to be very open-minded, I think. I think that definitely helps you get in touch with this stuff. You can't be afraid, or you can be, but like, it helps if you're not, because, you know, you're not going to fight it and that's going to help you go deeper. But, you know, sometimes it is just a lucky thing because I was pretty arrogant before doing psychedelics and they really like humbled me and opened me up to them. Yeah.
Maybe part of it is just like if you're able to handle it, maybe whatever the plant spirits, like, I don't know, whatever they're thinking. I guess, yeah, maybe it is if you're just, number one, if you're open to it. Also, I think intention setting is good, but yeah, I guess maybe some people, they're just a little bit more ready for it, or also ready to have their lives shaken up a little bit more than others.
Sure. Yeah. It's distracting. It's a massive distraction. Like that could be a big part of it is like, if you don't want to have your life take a different course when you take that acid, you're like, you know what? I'm not going to tap into these entities that are like always around us and messing with us. Like that's just not stuff I need to be thinking about, you know, in my day-to-day job. But obviously you have got in touch with entities quite a lot. And for me, what's really interesting is these entities have told you very similar stuff to what they've told me. For me, I've always felt that the entities I get in touch with, they're the same. Like I don't think there's a large scope of entities that I've encountered. A lot of them have like the same message, even if they look different. I kind of just sense that they're the same beings. What have they like looked like to you? What sort of, you know, stuff have they told you, I guess? And like, are they the same entities for you? Like, do you call them anything in particular, anything like that?
Okay, so I feel like in some experiences, it's just like beings, and I don't really know what they are. Sometimes it's just like an energy or knowing that they're there.
Mm.
In terms of ones that I've seen, so are you familiar with Alex Gray's art? I
Yeah.
assume so.
Yeah.
Fuck, what are they called? You know, do you know like a super famous piece of art where it's like those kind of beings with the weird heads?
The heads, the like the fractal heads where there's just like head after head after head.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
those. Okay.
Yes.
So in ayahuasca ceremonies, there's all, and also, in DMT, a couple DMT experiences, I always have a moment where I feel like those guys are all around me. And even sometimes if I just, go into a deeper place in an ayahuasca ceremony, it's like I see these guys just come across my vision. And even actually, so in Costa Rica, we get these mushrooms and we call them DMT mushrooms. They're really strong. And I did a solo mushroom trip in June. And it was crazy. It was as strong as ayahuasca at one point.
Wow.
Did not expect that.
Yeah.
But I remember I was sitting in my living room and it was those guys again. They were all in my living room. It was really crazy.
Yeah.
But it's like they're always kind of giving the same messages, whether it's those beings or other ones that are just energy, or
Yes.
I've also had an experience with DMT of being surrounded by these creatures. I call them Smurf creatures.
Yep.
I think it's what people call machine elves.
So, yeah.
But they've kind of told me, well, the machine elves, they were making fun of me for taking myself too seriously.
Right.
They were like, why do you take yourself so seriously? Like, nothing matters. You need to chill out.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like that cosmic joke. Like,
Yes.
life has purpose and life has meaning, but in the end, none of it matters.
Yeah.
And that came through to me in ayahuasca as well. It was like, I don't know, I was just hearing like this being shouted through the universe. Nothing matters, everything matters. Nothing matters, everything matters.
Yes.
I was
Yeah.
like, okay, cool. I often get the same messages, just about like the fact that we're humans and learning life lessons and experiencing things, and a lot of stuff even about manifestation, or what we call manifestation. Like I've been told, like wherever you put your energy, that's where things will manifest. Vibrate at the frequency you want to attract. Like you can create anything that you want, but you need to believe in yourself.
Yeah.
And some big ones like everything is love. And it's so funny. I feel like these beings in one of my ayahuasca ceremonies, they took me to this source energy, and it was this feeling of nirvana, like perfect love, oneness, bliss, unity with everything and everyone. And I was told, like, this is what we all are and what we all come from. Like, everything is love. And even Ram Dass, he said, like we're all just loving awareness.
Yes.
So yeah, it's a lot of the same messages. And actually something that you kind of asked about earlier, like, was there a moment where like everything kind of changed for you? And I forgot, in my first ayahuasca ceremony, I was just like, I just remember yelling through the universe in whatever way I was doing that. I was like, oh my God, I remember.
Yes. Yeah. I've had that. Yeah.
So I was trying to send messages actually to all my friends around the world. I was like, guys, I remember everything now.
Yeah.
I never have to say it again.
Yes. Oh wow. I've had something very similar to that. That's like, it's for me, it really resonates with what do you know Graham Hancock?
I feel like that name sounds familiar, but you're gonna have to remind me.
He's a dude who's done ayahuasca a bunch basically, and he said something like we're a species with amnesia, I think, and that like for me that resonates with these trips, because like there is this moment where you realize we're not just like everything that we're telling ourselves about life. That's a fraction. There's so much more to what we are. And it sounds insane. And like, I love doing these podcasts because I can be a little bit more like honest, you know, about what this stuff kind of reveals. Because on TikTok, I don't really want to go into the stuff that like I truly kind of believe in, because it sounds insane. But the truth is, like, I do feel like we have a like profound connection with the entire universe, to the point we are the entire universe. Like, we are that nirvana, that source consciousness. That's our soul. And it's literally just thinking itself into existence. And that's us. Like, we're just like it thinking itself into existence. And somehow psychedelics is like reminding us of our true origin, and that's that moment. It's like, I remember who I really am, and all of the stuff that I'm stressing and worrying about in life, I'm creating it. Like, it's not even like a real thing. Like, I don't even have to stress and worry about this stuff. Like, that isn't who I am, and I don't have to give my power to it. Like, it's so insanely liberating. Would you say that's the most like powerful and meaningful message that you receive from psychedelics?
What's the most powerful message I've received? I think probably that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I think so. Yeah, I think just remembering like who I really am. And yeah, just kind of just shapes how I live my life now, what I preach and when I practice what I preach. Like, I really do believe that we are the creators of our own reality.
Yeah.
A lot of it, though, is getting rid of all the limiting beliefs holding us back, and all these stories and programs from society.
Yep.
So that's something that I'm still working on, but it's like, I know it's all entirely possible.
Sure. Yeah. It's really frustrating, because like I'm always like arguing with myself almost. It's like, I've had these experiences on psychedelics, and when you're there, you know it's real. Like, you don't have to question it. You don't have to doubt it. You don't have to think twice about it. It's like, I know this is the truth. And then you'll probably feel that way for like a good amount of time after that trip when you're sobered up. But I haven't done psychedelics in a long time myself. And so like, I know that everything I've experienced there is real, at least at the core. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's all sorts of little details and stuff that happen during those trips, which I'm sure is just insane. But like, you know, there's stuff that happens that I'm like, I know this is true, but then why am I getting stressed, you know, while I'm driving in traffic? Like, and that's one thing that I find can actually, like, it almost is, it's ironic, I guess, because when you have these trips and you see what alignment looks like, you become more aware of what it feels like when you're not in alignment, and then that could throw you off even further. Do you get that at all? Oh, I think we've just frozen.
Damn it.
Oh, you back?
Okay. Yeah, sorry. It started
It's all good.
raining, and sometimes the Wi-Fi is not good when it rains.
That's okay. It's actually a pretty good time anyway, because I gotta head off at 10, or I gotta be somewhere at 10. Yeah. Well, just in case that happens again, why don't we finish it up with these retreats that you're holding?
Yes.
How often that they happening? What's the sort of people that should go to them? You know, do you want to give us some more information about these retreats?
Yes. So I host soul family retreats. So I host a couple kinds, actually. And I'm so proud of myself. Like, I really felt called to do this. And it wasn't until a peyote ceremony where, you know, I was throwing up in the jungle for 12 hours straight that I got rid of all the limiting beliefs that were keeping me from starting to do the retreats. And, you know, in that ceremony, I really got the message, like, go back to Costa Rica, start bringing people together. So I've hosted 4 retreats so far. My 5th will be in December. I have another in February 2023 and another in April. So right now I host 2 kinds of retreats. I host soul sister retreats. And so those are for women. They're super fun. It's just, you know, bringing women together. I have so many really awesome female friends from around the world. and it's kind of what inspired it.
Yep.
But I'd say, just for people who are in my community, who are into spirituality, into consciousness, into plant medicine, all the fun things. It's not like you don't have to be like a super expert in any of it, just for people who are kind of open-minded and who want to connect. I think for a lot of people who are living in like cities or towns, the journey can be quite lonely at times. And so a lot of people have been coming to my retreats. They're like, yeah, I'm really into spirituality, and I'm like, I love to talk about manifestation and shadow work and limiting beliefs and aliens, whatever, but they don't have people to talk to about it in their real life.
Yep.
So I create these soul sister retreats to create, a little soul fam. We have a WhatsApp group going. We always like stay in touch. And the retreats, I always kind of say it's a mix of healing and wellness, but with fun festival vibes. So we have, the traditional personal development modalities like breath work, meditation, yoga, but we are not a yoga retreat. We also do a lot of like ecstatic dance. We have jungle parties, and a lot more, of course. But yeah, it's super fun. It's one of my favorite things in the world. And then I now also host content creator retreats. So I host my first one in April with another TikToker, Letha J. Honestly, that one like came together so last minute. We did a Zoom call, and because I had just, talked to a lot of people on the internet all the time. So we did a Zoom, and she was like, oh, wait, tell me about this retreat you're hosting. So I shared about the retreat, and she was like, okay, that's amazing. But what if we did it for content creators? So those ones are kind of the same premise. However, it's for people who are already on the journey, people who have, businesses, who are into, spirituality, who are into all these types of topics and who've been into it for a while. And I'd say that they're like a little bit more on the expert level, or at least, intermediate, not so beginner.
Yeah.
So that one is for creators who are talking about spirituality, consciousness, personal development, mindset, psychedelics, even like the festival kind of community, mainly just people who are super open-minded, to be honest, and who are down to come spend a week in the jungle, getting a little weird on occasion. So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I definitely want to come to one of those retreats. They sound amazing.
Oh my God, come in February. It would be so fun. And also, we've kind of determined, wait, are you into like Baba Ram Dass at all?
Wait, is that the dude? Ram Dass?
Yeah. Ram Dass?
Yeah, I haven't looked much into it, but like everything I've seen him say, I'm totally down for. Yeah.
Okay. So I have this theory that Ram Dass is in our soul fam, because it's like all these new people that I become friends with online, all the girls who come to my retreats, and also like the creator retreats, those are mixed gender. There's men and women who come, but it's like everybody who's been signing up, they all are like huge Ram Dass fans. Like I love Ram Dass. Yeah. I have a tattoo for Ram Dass now. And it's crazy. Like when I met up with my other TikTok friend recently in another part of Costa Rica, she has the same tattoo as me, and then a bunch of other girls do too.
Wow.
So yeah, it's kind of wild.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's from what I've seen so far, he speaks the truth, and I feel like that's like it's just the truth coming through many people now. It's really awesome to see. I'm glad you're doing this stuff, Bianca. The community needs to be definitely way more united. Where can people find you to watch your content?
You can find me on TikTok, Biancacp __, or on Instagram, same thing, Biancacp __. Honestly, I don't know if I should switch that handle up. It might be a little difficult, but here we are.
I think if people just Google, put in Biancacp, they'd find you anyway, I'm sure. Yeah, I reckon. But otherwise, Bianca. Oh, sorry. Oh, go on. Yeah, go on.
No, I was saying I don't have a website. So it's like truly like all my retreat stuff, it all goes through like TikTok and Instagram. So,
true.
So yeah, if you want to come follow me on social media, follow me. If you want to do retreat stuff, just DM me on Instagram.
Hell yeah. Cool. Well, I feel like we just hit the tip of the iceberg. So for sure, we'll do more of this. There's tons more to unpack. Thank you so much for coming on, Bianca. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. This is so fun. I wish you didn't live in Australia.
Yeah, I know. Right? It's such a shame. Well, I'm sure we'll meet up in person at some point. But otherwise, enjoy house sitting, Bianca, and thank you. Yeah, I'll see you soon.
Cool.
Awesome.
Bye.
Bye.